Back out on the track at Mount Panorama this morning for practice as drivers get a feel for Sunday's great race, the 35th annual AMP Bathurst 1000. It's been a bit of a learning curve for a number of overseas drivers who've heard all about Mount Panorama, but until now haven't had a chance to get round that mighty circuit. Now, Peter Brock is also set to get back into the action after his spectacular whoop. There we go, roll over at Caltex Chase at the end of the high-speed Conrod Straight in his Vectra yesterday. Mechanics have worked throughout the night to get the bent Brock machine back on track. And joining us live from the mountain, it is no less the great man himself, Peter Brock, with Garry Wilkinson. How are you, Peter?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Annie.
And Garry, what about practice there? Looking good. It's a beautiful day.
Oh, it's a fantastic day. It's a bit windy, I've got to say that. And as we speak, the cars are going back out onto the circuit for a practice session. Peter's car, as you observed, was a little bit bent after yesterday.
Yeah.
But amazingly, Derek Warwick, when the car came back yesterday, Peter, thought it was going to be a write-off.
Yeah, Derek underestimated the boys at TAFE, who do a magnificent job. And, well, I also had a pretty good idea that when it did flip over, it didn't actually hit anything hard. It sort of just rolled along the road surface. So it wasn't as if the chassis was badly bent. So it worked all right, as we heard. The car's looking a little bit scratched and scraped on the outside, but basically none the worse for wear.
Yes, the old Peter Perfect, not quite so perfect there, Garry and Peter.
Well, hang on, Andy. I could take you to task on this. I mean, in life, you've got to fill up the full quota, haven't you? And you've got to tick all those boxes. Now, I hadn't rolled the car.
Is that right?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, you know, yeah.
What does it feel like?
Actually, it reminded me of snow skiing at Falls Creek. I've come a cropper there a few times, so I can tell you it felt just the same.
Did it scare you, though?
Peter's never quite enjoyed that sobriquet Peter Perfect, and now you've labelled him Peter Not So Perfect.
And I've come back and said, well, hang on, I've now got the perfect score, I've done it. But it was a little bit concerning at the time, mainly because I came through the kink there at 265k, and I was telling the guys we should be able to get through there flat, you know, and I did. Clipped the curb on the right-hand side. Now, being a left-hand drive car, and I'm not making any excuses here, a bit hard to judge where the curb is on the right-hand side. Just clipped it. The car bounced in the air, cocked itself sideways, and started aiming for this concrete wall, which was not a very happy thing to actually observe. So I actually got it back the other way and slid down the road for quite some time, slowly curving towards the left-hand side of the circuit, and just snagged the end of a sand trap. Now, the sand traps are in there to slow you down, except that if you hit it sideways, it just trips you over. It's like someone just tipping those feet from under you.
Andy, there's been a tendency by some people to write off the 2-litre cars as kind of toy cars, but I think what happened to Peter yesterday proves not only are these cars damn quick, they're tricky to handle around here.
Oh, yes, they're very tweaky to handle. I mean, to make the cars turn in so fast, it does make them down the main straight, of course, a little bit twitchy when you go through the fast corners. And it just simply caught me out, to be honest with you. It's simple as that.
Peter, is it back on track today? Sorry to interrupt you, Garry.
No, back on track, Annie. It's not as we speak, but the car is back there in the workshop. The guys are bolting bits and pieces back onto it. And I guess after we finish this interview, I'll be back up there to see how close they are, but it's looking pretty good.
Annie, you mentioned overseas drivers coming to grips with the track. It didn't take Alain Menu long to come to grips with it in the Williams Renault yesterday.
No, Alain Menu. Look, these guys are pros. I mean, you're talking about Formula One sort of quality drivers, and they get out there and they just know the job's there to be done. They look at the track and they're into it. I think Alain was fair enough. He was saying later on, I don't think I could drive like that all the time because it wasn't very comfortable, but by gee, it was fast. I expect that we should be very close to him, though, in speed. I really do. I was only a few tenths behind, and I was, you know, only my handful of laps on the track. So I think the locals can still do pretty well against the internationals.
Place is abuzz up here, Annie, as you observe. The weather is perfect. The cars are back out for another qualifying session. Rocky's 05 car will be back on the track this afternoon.
And I'm very pleased to hear that.
He's anxious for another go.
And Peter is feeling perfectly okay, thank you.
And push it to the limit there, Peter, too.
Hey, no, we know, no other way.
Indeed, my dear friend. OK, thank you very much, Peter and Garry at Mount Panorama. Good luck to you both.
Thanks, Annie.
Cheers.
Thank you. OK, moving on, and we're still on sport.